Here we go. All right, we are back tentatively. We'll see how this goes. For those of you who could not hear before, I am CJ. I am the GM for the USS Marvel through the 10th Expeditionary Fleet. I have here with me our current players who have arrived. We're still waiting on our captain and security officer. I have our doctor and our helmsman. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself for our stream now that they can actually hear us?
Okay, I'll start. I am Lieutenant Commander Talia Haviv, Chief Medical Officer on the USS Marvel.
And good evening. I'm Lieutenant Alrin Corval. I am the helmsman and crack shuttle pilot on the Marvel.
Now, where we were when all of the audio decided that it didn't want to work with us is we were just going through the initial testing of the Marvel at dry dock. The doctor was working on making sure all of her medical systems work, and our helmsman had gone through a few test simulations of the ship itself. With the captain and the security officer are being a little bit detained, we have been working through it, but we will get this working and go from here. Currently, momentum is sitting at 2, and the threat is, of course, sitting at 4, with everything is going as planned. There is a chirp on the bridge as Commander Savin, the second in command, a Vulcan woman, answers. This is the commander, go ahead. We've had a temporary delay of the captain arriving on station. We are going to go ahead with a test flight, if that's all right with you guys there on the Marvel. We are operating at lower than standard efficiency at the moment with a smaller crew. That will affect any test results. Understood, Marvel. We still want to try testing out the engines a little bit. We're just going to bring her out to Pluto and back. I suppose that is acceptable. Do we have clearance from dry dock? Yes, ma'am. Well then, Lieutenant Corval, if you would please.
Aye, sir. Clearing all moorings. Course set for Pluto. And we are set up and ready to go.
Half impulse.
Are we in Stardock right now, or are we just hanging out in space?
Detaching from Stardock currently. You've been given clearance to detach and depart.
Aye, sir. Half impulse departing from Stardock.
As you hit the appropriate LCARs, you feel the ship lurch just for a short moment as the inertia dampeners kick in and pull away from the gantry. You feel the hum of the ship come alive as its warp core begins to thrum throughout the system, providing power. And then you hear from the chirp, "This is engineering. Just confirming, are you guys seeing everything up on bridge? We should have full power systems up and running."
I pull over another one of the holographic displays to look at engine power levels.
Currently, your readout is reading full power, about I'm trying to remember what the right measurement system is. I believe that it would be sitting at approximately 200,000 gigawatts worth of power throughout the system, which is expected as optimal.
And Commander, I'm looking at the systems here. Appears we have full power.
Understood. Who do we have in engineering currently? This is the research specialist, Kimoni Orel. I have temporary clearance until you guys have an engineer that can actually understand my system. I see. Well, Miss Orell, you are temporarily being assigned as the chief engineer for this run. Please do keep the ship intact. Well, no shit, she's my baby. I'm gonna make sure that she does just fine. On your orders, Bridge. And as you guys begin to clear the gantry, power systems are doing quite well. No issues, no fluctuations. Medical, from your standpoint, you're watching the standard arrays, making sure that things are flowing properly and that there's no active radiation anywhere on board from bad shielding or a number of other issues that can arise from a ship not being put together properly. So far, everything is checking out with you. The ship pulls out, and you're getting some good speed. It's roughly at the point that you hit 1/4 impulse, though, that you see a sudden fluctuation in the power systems, very quickly draining, going lower and lower and lower until just enough that engines are still operating, along with life support and core systems, but anything auxiliary shuts down to avoid power drain.
Commander, we're experiencing massive power drain. Engines are efficiency is falling. All other systems appear to be shutting down. Rerouting energy to life support systems to maintain stability.
Understood. Engine, please shut down. Begin diagnostics. See what's going on. I'm doing that already. I told you, I'm trying to make sure that she doesn't tear herself apart. The warp core is acting funny. Bridge, can we get a scan of the local area? I just want to make sure that there's no extraneous things going on. Lieutenant, if you would please organize the scan.
Yes, sir. Ship answering all stop, and then I will stand up and walk over towards the science console.
Notably, as the system is shut down and you go full stop, the power systems do re-engage and you're pulled back up to full power. And you can hear what the universal translator fails to pull from the Trill language to the equivalent of "God damn it."
The Trill is the engineer?
Correct. You have not met this Orell, but based off of the language coming through, that is definitely Trill.
Okay, settling in at the science console, since we don't have a science officer on board yet. Bring up the systems as best as possible, and now that we have power again, turning the sensors back on.
Perfect. Go ahead and give me a... Let's make this control and science. And if our doctor could roll for us the ship's computer science, that will be... Where did it go? That will be 11 plus 3. That'll be 14 for just one dice on the ship.
Copy that.
Okay, my target's 14. I rolled 2 successes.
Perfect.
I got a. I'm sorry, I rolled a 14, and that was a failure on her end.
Yes, it would be, because I believe tied number does not count as a success. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sure I'm going to hear that from the chat any moment now, but
Actually,
we'll just
I'm
go
pretty
with
sure
it.
I think it's a meter beat, so it should actually be a success then.
I'll take it and
I
double check the rules in a minute. So that would be 3 successes. That'll bring the Marvel momentum pool up to 4. And as you do send a scan around, you're roughly at the point where you are maybe 40,000 kilometers from Mars based off of how far Impulse got you by the time that the power systems were going out. And there actually is a solar disruption that is causing a little bit of static in the area, but the shielding seems to be holding out, which suggests that it would not be causing the power system issue.
I hunched down over the systems for a bit, double checking everything since this isn't my forte. Commander, it looks like there's a little bit of abnormal solar activity, maybe a bit higher radiation than normal, but it looks like our shielding is holding and should be more than sufficient to handle what's happening.
Understood. Keep an eye on it. I'm going to regroup with command. Give me just a moment. Lieutenant Commander, while you are down below decks in the medical bay, keeping an eye on this through your computer station, you do see that there is still a little bit of power fluctuation in the LCARs that are up against the wall, and you actually, for a moment, think that you see one of the displays flicker out before transmitting an image of the Starfleet command symbol, the little arrowhead that it is. And then it blinks back to the medical system.
Okay. Knowing my current mental state, I don't think I'm seeing things, so I'm going to. Would that be a call up to Bridge or to the specialist?
That is up to you.
Lieutenant Commander Haviv to Bridge.
Currently, that would be the lieutenant as the ranking officer on the bridge, as the commander has stepped down for a moment into the ready room.
Lieutenant Commander, go ahead. This is Lieutenant Koval.
Oh, Lieutenant, good. I am still having some fluctuation issues here in Medbay. I'm still getting some Starfleet command signals coming in from my LCARs. Is that considered a standard issue to have?
Just a second. I'll look over the displays. That is not normal effects. I'm running some science scans up here. We're seeing some extra solar radiation that our shield should be able to handle, but I'll document it along with the power drain issue we had, and we can turn that over to the specialist in engineering for further study.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant.
And as this goes on back and forth a little bit with this somewhat combative Trill woman getting calls in from the bridge as well as other stations that seem to be affected by this power loss, there is another power flux, this time actually affecting even the lighting on the bridge and a number of other locations in Medbay as well, as the lights go down for a few minutes. And there is a shudder as the ship almost vibrates for a moment. Gravity generators in the floor still remain stable, but you can actually feel the whole ship shake in its position.
Well, I know that's not normal.
Tap my comm badge. Corval to Commander 7?
Yes, go ahead, Lieutenant.
I'm sure you noticed the power fluctuations. The power drain seems to be occurring again and staying in place this time. And recommend you return to the bridge.
I am currently in the ready room just behind you. However, the door does not seem to be responding. I have managed to contact command. They are sending the USS Rosenberg to assist us. While you still have command of the bridge itself. See if you can get an assistance from any of the supporting crew on board.
Understood. I'll see if I can't get in touch with the Rosenberg.
Perfect.
Open hailing frequencies and USS Rosenberg. This is Lieutenant Corval aboard the USS Marvel.
Go ahead, Marvel. This is Captain Horns of the Rosenberg.
Captain
Looks
Horns.
like you guys got dead in the water.
Yeah, we're having some power issues here, and our primary power systems have just dropped off again. Wanted to see if maybe we could get a tow back to Space Dock.
I think we can probably arrange that. You're a little bit bigger than us, so it won't be a clean pull, but we can at least get you out of wherever you're sitting.
Okay.
Requesting visual just to make sure everything's good on the deck.
Activate the view screen.
And you come face to face.
Assuming that it works with minimal power.
It does come on for half a moment. You're getting that very staticky, old VCR screen kind of effect across the view screen, and you are greeted by a gentleman in command red, easily in his late 60s, 70s probably, Asian descent in the command chair. Everything looks like it's coming through on our end, though we are getting a little visual feedback. At least that means your comm systems aren't going to quit out on you while we're pulling.
That is the hope, Captain.
And as you're seeing this, you do see the view screen. It appears that something on the Rosenberg just shudders all of a sudden, and he very quickly turns to one of his side consoles. What was that? There shouldn't be any kind of spatial anomalies out here, are there? Unknown Captain, the entire Rosenberg just had an entire fluctuation. Power systems drained almost to minimal. Engineering's attempting to bring them back. USS Marvel, are you picking up anything on your scanners?
Well, we picked up some extra solar radiation earlier, but no spatial anomalies in space. Unfortunately, our sensors are now offline with the power loss. I think our research engineer will be happy to know, though, that it may not be necessarily her power system's fault if there is actually something going on.
Understood, Marvel. Can you hear us clear?
I hear you clear, Captain. Can you hear us?
Comms are a little shaky.
I stand up from the center console and move back towards, I guess, the engineering console or the comms. I move towards the ops console to see if I can't clear up the comm systems any.
Alrighty. Go ahead and give me a control con, because that does fall under con.
One success.
You are able to clean up the signal enough that you can hear them clearly, but it seems like they are experiencing some issues on their end, and the view screen clears up a little as you rotate the view towards the Rosenberg, which is an older Galaxy class ship, and you see that it's starting to drift both downwards and portwards, away from the Marvel and its projected course, as if its engines just went offline and now it's caught in almost a gravity well based off of your ability to astro navigate. Which doesn't make sense, as they're nowhere near a planetoid, and it's not like they randomly got caught in the moon's pull.
Press a button on the Alice console. Engineering, what's our power status? How much power do we have left?
Power systems are regaining a little bit. We're at about 10% capacity currently, enough to at least get impulse power back.
Okay. If we can get impulse engines back, I'd like to put some distance between us. Keep me informed if we have any more power issues.
Understood. And as you start pulling away, you actually feel the ship shudder again as you try and move away from your current spot. Go ahead and give me a... Let's make this daring and con.
What is the difficulty? Because
I'm going to mark the difficulty on this one at 3.
At 3, okay. I definitely want to spend a momentum then to roll an extra die.
Okay, that'll bring you guys down to 3.
3 successes.
Perfect. That's enough to clear. And you feel this pull, this wrench a little bit as the ship struggles before there is a sudden just burst of energy as you guys pull away. The dampeners do compensate quite a bit of it, but it's enough to shake the ship up on the bridge, and you're pretty sure the rest of the ship can feel it as well. But you do pull away from that spot, heading a little bit closer to Mars. You can see at this point from your position as you rotate the Marvel that the Rosenberg is actually now fully adrift, almost rotating in space. And the only things that you can see as the comms are not going through clearly at this point is that their flight lights are on around the rim of the saucer section. At which point you do see that the main sets of lights come back up across the Marvel, as well as the ready room's door hisses open.
I see the commander step out. Before I look over there, I try to hail back to Earth and hail Starfleet command, I guess, to inform them of the Rosenberg's condition.
The command control tower does pop up. This is Starfleet Command. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Lieutenant Corval on the USS Marvel. Wanted to inform you that we have experienced some sort of spatial anomaly near the orbit of Mars, currently sitting about 400,000 kilometers outside of Mars. The USS Rosenberg, which was sent to aid us, is currently adrift off to our port side.
Understood, Marvel. Do what you can to try and find out what's going on. Reestablish your power systems if you can. And if at all possible, try to run a scan on the Rosenberg. Make sure they're all right over there.
Will do. Marvel out.
The commander nods. Well done. You're handling yourself well, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir. I stand up from the center chair and move back towards the ops position to see what systems we can get powered.
As you're working through that, it does seem that engineering is very quickly restoring power to the remainder of the systems. And the commander taking seat center chair. Lieutenant Commander Talia, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like you on the bridge. We have minimal staff up here, and while I understand your focus is in medicine, I do hope that you will be able to operate sensors a little bit better than we are currently capable.
Understood, sir. And I turn to Lieutenant Olsen and I'm like, hold down the fort for me, and I head up to the bridge.
You got it, Doc. As you head up to the bridge, it does seem that the power systems do kick on to full capacity as you leave the med bay, and you're very quickly make your way up to the bridge, where there currently is the commander, lieutenant, and yourself.
Commander, permission to enter the bridge?
Granted. If you wouldn't mind taking the navigation and science station, please.
I head over to the science station and assume position.
All right. Lieutenant, if you wouldn't mind, bring us to stations keeping around the approximate distance that we were experiencing power fluctuation. And Lieutenant Commander, begin scans, see what we can find. Anything that is an anomalous reading, report it immediately.
Sir. Station keeping, roughly 400,000 kilometers outside Mars orbit.
Aye, sir. Begin scanning.
Alrighty. Lieutenant Commander, I'm going to have you go ahead and roll a reason science check, and if you will give me a computer's science check for the Marvel Corval, that's 14 for the ship.
No. I have 2 successes on my end.
The ship has failed its check.
Alrighty. So that will be one success above. As always, you can use momentum to obtain more information as needed, but with the scans as they go out, you are detecting that there is something that is anomalous. There's a concentration of graviton particles that are clustered around roughly a point about roughly 25,000 kilometers off the port side of the Marvel, which is only about maybe 10,000 kilometers from the stern of the Rosenberg as it's currently adrift. And now you can see that it is almost floating in an orbiting pattern around this central point. But there is no physical particulates that you're seeing there, just the graviton field that is existing there.
If it's okay with Corval, I'd like to spend a point of momentum to obtain more information.
Absolutely.
What is your question?
Okay. I'm assuming the sensor has a range. Is this the only point that there are gravitons, or is it more like a trail of them in a certain direction, or is it just for?
The Marvel does have a pretty extensive sensor suite that allows it to see out fairly large distance. As you set the scans a little bit wider out, it appears that this is the only one in the local area. There's a very heavy cluster of it right at the listed point, but you aren't seeing any points of it anywhere else in the solar system.
Okay, Commander, there is some sort of graviton cluster about. Sorry, I don't remember the distance, but my character will.
About
So
25,000.
25,000 away from our current location, and but 10 from the stern of the Rosenberg. I cannot seem to find a source or why it's there or any trail of it, but there does seem to be they do seem to be.
I see. Lieutenant Commander, what is your knowledge of any stellar phenomena? Please weigh in as well, Lieutenant, if you have any ideas.
And I think you mentioned this before. Is the Rosenberg orbiting or heading towards the?
It is adrift, but it is now starting to go into that orbital pattern where it is going on an arc around this graviton field.
Okay, just making sure it wasn't crashing into it.
Not currently. It could if its orbit degrades, but it currently is it is starting to form in a orbital pattern that is safe currently.
Okay.
I typically know that you typically have to have a source from which you one's full. There's typically a mass of some sort to draw it into, but random gravitons, it's not quite my field.
Understood. Lieutenant, any ideas? As the helm, I'm sure you've had plenty of experience with other stellar phenomena.
I mean, a graviton field would act like a gravity well, which would explain the impact on the engines, but having one with no associated mass is not something I've experienced before.
That would suggest then that something is creating this field, if I'm following your logic.
Agreed. There have been reports of gravimetric weaponry before, but when I scanned earlier, I certainly didn't see anything in the area that would suggest there's something producing a gravimetric field.
Then I believe we should begin assuming that something is creating it, and we have to begin basing our theories on the facts surrounding us. There are new factors involved around us. There is, of course, the temperamental nature of a new ship, and the existence of the Rosenberg currently adrift. Are there any other variables that we must consider?
Have there been any other ships that have passed through this area recently?
It's a fairly common route that between Earth and Mars, but it looks like. Why don't you go ahead and give me a? Let's make this a reason con check. You're gonna take a quick look at the logs, see if there's anyone that's taken this particular route recently. And I'm gonna set the difficulty at 2, and I'm actually gonna spend one of my threat to raise the complication range from 20 to 19.
Okay. Do I get assist from the ship's computer?
Yes, that would be computers and computers con. That makes 100% sense to me. That would be 13 if you'll roll that, Doctor.
Okay. Well, I got 1 success, so I need the ship to step it up a bit.
I'm afraid the complication.
The ship rolled a complication?
20.
Interesting.
That's
Oh
20,
boy!
okay.
Oh boy!
All things considered,
Wow,
it makes
that's
sense considering our issues, but no, the ship did not roll well. I'm sorry.
As you're accessing the computer systems, trying to establish a link with Starfleet Fleet Command, specifically to try and figure out if there have been any active flights in the area, there's a glitch that occurs, and you actually see the LCAR system completely phase out before you see it reboot. And the message that is on there is communication field dropped. Relocalizing to ship computer only. Communications offline.
Well, that's grand.
As
Commander,
you do so, though,
we have managed to lose all communications now.
Well, this does seem to be compounding upon the issues. Computer, access all flight records that were available before loss of communication. And based off of at least the 1 success that you had, you are able to pull up a few things. It looks like the preceding 4 or 5 days, there haven't been any official logged flights through Starfleet that appear to be running. You weren't able to get a full list beyond roughly about a week's worth of flight logs, but it looks like at least in the past 7 days there haven't been any.
And I'll take a look through it. The data that's coming through, nothing else has been through the area within the last week, so we don't have any recent historical information to look at. Maybe if this does seem to be maybe distance related, since as we moved further away, we were able to get our power back. If we have enough power, we might be able to use the tractor beam to pull the Rosenberg further away. Although we can't tell them we're going to do that since we just lost communications.
I'm willing to approve that course of action. Take the lead, Lieutenant.
All right. I'll call down to engineering just to make sure we do actually have the power to run a tractor beam.
Yeah, the core's running the way it's supposed to. We've got full power to all systems. You could probably fight a Klingon bird of prey with this, and half another fleet.
Let's hope it stays that way. I will then bring up sensors to target the Rosenberg and attempt to attach a tractor beam. And assuming it's successful, pull us away.
Alrighty. That should be a control security check, I believe. Let me double check.
Actually, maybe the doctor should do this then.
Security's not my.
No, I have a 1 in security.
So do I. It's your control. I only have control of
Activate
9.
emergency tactical hologram?
Please. Where's the security officer when you need him?
currently stuck on the, the dry dock. I'm actually going to say this is going to be Control Con because it looks like it is a non-damaging weapon, so I will go with that. And if I'm wrong again, I will probably hear about it from chat later.
That's all you, Corval.
All right. Target difficulty?
Let's make this one 3 because there is a gravity issue in the area.
Okay.
Will the ship get an assist?
Yes, the ship will assist, and I will have it use its. Let's go with weapons and security, which would put that at 13.
Okay, and I'm going to burn a momentum to get an extra die as well. So that brings us to 3, I think.
Yes, that tracks.
That would bring us down to 2 momentum because I spent 1 for information.
Yes, that is true. That would be 2.
Okay, I have 3 successes, including a nat 1.
Perfect. Wow. Okay. And the ship?
Just 1 over target, so nothing from the ship.
Understood. So the tractor beam engages, and you feel it struggle because it actually twists the ship a little bit, and you have to correct the course of the Marvel to compensate. But you do latch onto the Rosenberg, which stops dead in its orbital pattern.
Okay, once it's attached, I will move from the off station to the helm to try and move us away and pull the Rosenberg with us.
Alrighty. You are definitely getting your exercise today on the bridge, running back and forth between all these stations.
As we run by, I just kind of mutter, with the holographic L cars, we ought to be able to pull up multiple stations at a single spot.
I will bring that up with the specialist, Lieutenant, and I think that is a grand idea. And as you take your seat in the other station, you quickly begin to pull back, and each step that you move back in terms of, or not step, but about every 100 kilometers that you pull back, you feel that there is that shudder from the Marvel as it struggles to pull away the Rosenberg. And you get this sensation that, based off of when you tried to pull the Marvel away, as well as the resistance that you're having now, is that this graviton field is almost acting a bit like a tractor beam because it was pulling very hard against the Marvel, and now you're engaging in almost a bit of a tug of war with the field itself.
I'm getting a lot of resistance on this pullback. Lieutenant Commander, could you see if you can figure out exactly how dense this graviton field is, what kind of gravitational pull we're dealing with? Make sure we're not going to overload any systems.
Of course, Lieutenant. Do I need to make another sensor scan for that?
No, you do not, because you are keeping an active eye on it as we're speaking, and you're seeing that the more the Marvel is pulling on the Rosenberg, the graviton field is actually condensing and getting more compact, pulling against the Rosenberg, trying to equalize the field. It's actually causing some stress on the Rosenberg system, though you're not sure how much, because hopefully your tractor beam is enforcing the structural field of the Rosenberg.
I am noticing that there does seem to be some resistance. It is actually condensing as we pull on it. It's almost like a string. And we are inducing some stress, hopefully not too much, but the Rosenberg is having some issues as well when we're trying to pull.
I will quickly stop pulling away then, but I want to maintain the tractor beam on the Rosenberg in case it's reinforcing the structural integrity fields.
Well, that does seem to be having a curious effect. Let's consider options. I believe that it is prudent to continue keeping an eye on this anomaly. So let's make sure that the ship continues to continue its scans. Would either of you be against bringing the specialist up here to get her ideas on things?
Not at all, sir.
Seems like the smart play to me.
The chirp goes off. Specialist Orel, if you wouldn't mind, please report to the bridge. I'm kind of making sure that the warp core is working here, but sure, if you need me all high and fancy up on the bridge, I'll get up there. Yes, please. That's why I asked. And it takes about 10 minutes to get from engineering up to the bridge, but as she does so, you see a roughly, looks like she's in her early 20s, trill woman with a noticeably metallic leg come into the bridge, folding her arms, civilian uniform. All right, so what am I doing up here? Uh, we figured that you should take a look at some of the data that is coming in from science and hopefully weigh in your expertise. If I read your file, you've got experience with both Romulan technology that uses singularity increases and such. Well, yeah, that's why I got put on this project to begin with. I understand. Keep it simple. All right, I'll take a look and see what's going on. Which one of you is the science officer or whoever's running the science station?
That would be me, Lieutenant Commander Haviv, and I stand up and slide out of the science station so she has full movement.
She very quickly kind of toddles over there and bends over the station taking a look at things. What the hell?
Glad it's not just me.
I know, right? I lean in sort of like closer, like I know, right?
She's going to attempt to analyze the data based off of her research. With your guys' permission, she's going to use momentum.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
All right, 3 dice. And meets a success and gives you guys back that momentum. All right, well, the oddity here is that this is behaving similarly to a singularity projector, which is commonly found in a lot of the warp cores of, well, not warp cores, it's not exactly warp. When it's on a Romulan ship, they use a singularity core. Basically the idea is they keep what's called a red matter injection stream, the same way we kind of use antimatter reactions with a dilithium crystal, and that allows them to affect a graviton field that basically functions kind of like our warp bubbles. What I'm seeing there is essentially a compressed red matter reaction, but there's no red matter present, because if there was, you'd be seeing a high concentration of, well, a mixture of theta, gamma, and X-ray radiation, but I'm getting none of that. It's a clean reaction, which means either it's a natural pothole, which people would have noticed going to and from Mars for however long humans have been doing it, or somebody's projecting that, and there should be a signal. And I'm not picking up a signal, maybe because I'm not looking in the right directions. But to be fair, in the solar system, we've got 2 directions here. It's either towards Earth and the moon, or it's towards Mars and its moons. There's not really much in between the 2 places here. I mean, sure, you get an occasional asteroid that comes loose from the belt because some miner does an idiotic thing, but do you see any of that around here? I don't. Which means cloaked vessel? I don't know, but again, I'm not seeing things on the scans that suggest that.
Specialist, real quick. Can we check the degradation rate of the particles, the gravitons, to see how long they've been currently there?
That's actually a really good idea. I didn't think of that. Yeah, we can do that. I could adjust the spectrum field to account for the the pulse of the quarks, and we could potentially get a reading that way. And she very quickly begins tapping into the systems. Lieutenant Commander, right? If you can, I want you on that station. Just give me a readout of whatever you see. And she's going to attempt to adjust the scanning spectrum. If one of you two will roll for the sensors, and let's make it engineering for the ship, that'll be sorry, not yes, sensors. That'll be 13.
Okay, I'll leave that to Doctor/acting science officer.
I'm sorry. Again, what am I rolling?
You are rolling for the ship. It is 13 against.
That's success.
Success? Good. That'll bring you up with her 2 successes to 3, which will beat the threshold. Okay. I'm seeing. So the good news is all of these particles are new. Not just like new as in a day old new. Each one of those particles I'm seeing here, it can't be more than 5 minutes old at a time, which means something has to be generating them. And anything that's lasting more than 2 or 3 minutes here is starting to bleed off because you're not seeing any particles here that are older than maybe 10 minutes at a time.
That would line up with when we came into the area. Is there anything about our warp core that could possibly produce red matter type particles?
Well, I don't know if you've got access to the engineering specs yet, but I mean, yes. The whole design of the Marvel is based off of this new well, there's microsingularities that are meant to assist in stabilizing the warp field, but they're meant to be almost microscopic, usually no more than a nanometer across each one of these microsingularities. There's 10 of them that are focused around the dilithium chamber of the warp core, but they use such a small reaction that the concentration shouldn't be this high. And even if we did dump our warp core, we shouldn't be seeing a reaction like that. But it is something that could be creating a red matter reaction.
Perhaps we aggravated a pre-standing condition?
Potentially. But the question is what to do if we did mess something up.
Also, would that my apologies, but would that also be why we're having such trouble removing the Rosenberg from the field itself?
It's very possible. I mean, if we were to turn off the stabilization field, that would mean we would just be operating on a standard warp core, and potentially it could remove the issue. Let's give it a try. Arel to engineering. Disengage the stabilization field. Go to standard Starfleet Protocol 1. And after a few moments, you actually see something on the sensors that seems even stranger. You see that the particles condense even more to the point that you're starting to see the gravity field, if it continues compressing in this speed that it is, it would be like the forming of a new star, a protostar. It's getting worse now that the stabilization field's been turned off.
Nope. Undo that. That's making it.
Yeah, status of the Rosenberg.
The Rosenbergs, the stability field is still holding, but you can actually see that there's microfissures starting to form on the outer hull.
We gotta fix this fast.
Re-engage stabilization field. As it does so, you actually see that it does not get any worse, but it does maintain that stable level of heavy graviton field.
Condition
But it is not
stabilized, but let's not do that again.
agreed. That did not look good.
Can we scan current life signs on the Rosenberg?
Yes, you can. The good news is that they are still at what they are expected to, about 2,000 crew. It does appear that there probably are some injuries based off of your scans, but definitely could be a lot worse.
Good.
Okay, so new data. The stabilization field of the Marble's core is helping to a degree. It's keeping whatever the hell is going on over there minimal. But the question is, why is that happening? We still don't know why that's happening. I'm stumped.
So to make sure I understand correctly, Morel, other than the fact that we have these micro singularities protecting our warp or helping our warp core is roughly identical to that of, say, the Rosenberg. I mean, different power levels, but in terms of physics.
In terms of physics, yes, the warp core still operates on an antimatter reaction that's stabilized by the dilithium crystals to make sure that it doesn't just cause random havoc and blow shit to Kingdom Come. But then the micro singularities that are held in the containment chambers surrounding the warp core, those refine the process so that there's almost the idea is that a warp bubble kind of fluctuates the faster you go, and it creates a rippling effect that keeps things from reaching higher speeds. But if you're able to maintain the dynamic shape of the warp bubble, you're able to reach faster and faster speeds. The Intrepid managed to do it with
Corval Wavers. I'm just trying to make sure that there's nothing that would interact between our ship and the Rosenberg that might cause this, since they seem to be in worse shape than we are, and we currently have no way to get them out.
Right. This is the part that's confusing me. A graviton field like that should not be affecting plasma flow. I mean, that's why they're shielding around all the plasma systems, so electricity should be fine. We experienced a power drop around it, so why? But
what would induce an issue with plasma flow? Like, separate from this incident, what would cause an issue with plasma?
Heavy magnetics, a number of Ferengi weapons. They seem to have a very interesting connection with electricity and plasma, plus a number of spatial anomalies that have been documented, like the Enterprise going near that weird planet that had the long-range plasma caster thing. I don't quite know what that system was. I didn't ever really study that, but there are a number of things that can affect your power systems. Even a tractor beam that's been modulated the right way can mess with the plasma flow of something if your plasma systems aren't appropriately shielded. It's more a question of magnetics and
magnetics. I pull my head up to politely interrupt her. Magnetics? Would that have a correlation with gravitons? Since gravity, in a way, does have its own magnetism?
There is some correlation to it, but the gravity can help direct magnetic flow. Magnetics are more based off of, well, electricity. It's electricity being conducted through something metallic. For example, the Earth has a magnetic north and south because a good portion of the core of the planet has iron in it, and it's even though gravity is creating that flow of iron, the iron then conducts a magnetic field around the Earth, and that's why there's magnetics on Earth. But if you were to look at, say, a planet like, let's see, Epsilon 3, which has a very low magnetic concentration, you can't actually use a magnetic compass there because the magnetic field is so low. It's usually a correlation with a metallic entity using electricity or a physical flow that creates that magnetic property. But yes, there is a correlation between gravity and magnetics to a degree. The higher a gravity field, generally, you can create a much higher magnetic strength.
So, which one leads to the other? Gravity leads to magnetics, or magnetics would lead to gravity?
There is correlation, but not causation. They can affect each other, but they do not cause each other. I mean, let's say you throw a 20 kilogram ball of iron into the sun, oh, that's right, the core of the sun, and you see that she just has this idea. Doctor Lieutenant Commander, can you
Either's fine.
scan for a concentration of either iron or gold in the nearby area? Any concentration higher than, let's say, 0.8 milligrams?
Sure, on it.
Like 0.8 milligrams, our ship's going to light up like a light bulb.
Excluding us in the Rosenberg, I have a feeling that with the graviton levels that are there, we actually might be experiencing something. You were right. The magnetics can be affected by the gravitons, and if there's something small that's generating a magnetic field within the nearby area, that graviton field could be amplifying it and making it bad enough that we could be losing power. Same as the Rosenberg. If there's something small, it could be projecting a much worse field.
On it. Okay, hold on 1 second. I have 2 successes on my end.
And Graval, will you roll for the ship?
Regardless of what we're rolling, the ship failed with a 17.
Come on, Marvel, work with us here.
It's a new ship. It doesn't know what to do.
It is having a bad first day. But as you begin scanning and checking, you actually do get a blip. It is located probably, let's see, stellar distances, about 30,000 kilometers starboard side of the Marvel, which would put it about 40,000 from this graviton field. But you're actually getting a very small sensor blip from what appears to be a small electrical system from a something that is starboard of the Marvel.
Oh, I got something here. Well, you take a look at this.
That interesting. That almost looks like a tractor beam emitter, but interesting.
What's it attached to?
That's the question. I'm not seeing anything in that space. Any of you guys know how to fire a phaser or use the security systems on this ship? I'm a terrible shot.
I looked at the commander.
The Vulcan just nods. I will handle that. If we can, let's whatever standard protocol is for Romulan ships and Klingon ships, I think it's a tachyon pulse to try and see if there's anything cloaked out there. And after a few moments, the commander sets off the pulse, at which point the sensor readings go haywire, as it's not ship size. It's actually about the size of one of the satellites orbiting the Earth. Just suddenly goes. It looks almost like a large shipping crate that is currently at stations keeping 30,000 kilometers from this graviton field, and you see it spark over and over as the tachyon pulse hits its outer field.
Well, I'd say we hit something.
Yeah, that definitely is something.
Did the graviton field change at all?
It does not, no. I'm not gonna give any orders here, but should we check out the thing?
Rosenberg behind in this orbit that might or might not decay.
That's right.
Well, we still have them in the tractor beam.
Yeah, but if we want to get
Yeah,
closer
but if
to
we
that thing,
go
are we going to
up-
let go of the Rosenberg?
That's right.
I don't feel comfortable abandoning the Rosenberg in its current situation, and if we get farther away, we might again start making it condense further. I'm honestly not quite sure what to do here.
Well,
Commander?
I can slowly reduce the power of the tractor beam, and we can see if there's any resulting effect on the Rosenberg. We might be able to tell if it's capable of reestablishing an orbit. We could also attempt to use our flight lights to send a message via Morse code. I think they still teach that at the academy. I know I took it, but I was a history nerd.
I will allow you to attempt to send a message via the landing lights. That sounds like a perfectly logical thing.
So I will try short message. Can maneuver with a question mark?
It takes a moment, but it seems that after repeating the message twice, you do see that the flight lights begin to spark on and off on the Rosenberg. N-O.
Okay. Looks like the Rosenberg is still dead in the water. It can't maneuver.
The message does continue slowly as you're keeping track of the letters. Power minimal. Auxiliary life support only.
I relay that to the commander that they are running on minimal auxiliary power. I mean, I know that our ship is large enough to take on their crew complement, but I don't know how we would move 2,000 people between our two ships without docking, and I don't think there's any way in the world we're going to do that with that singularity sitting out there.
Lieutenant, with your ability, could you attempt to reestablish the Rosenberg's orbitus pattern around this anomaly? Perhaps give them an appropriate push.
We could attempt to drag them to give them enough momentum. I don't know if that's going to cause the field to strengthen again. We wouldn't necessarily be pulling against it.
If you establish a parallel path,
Right.
That would mean we aren't setting resistance. I'm willing to take the risk.
It makes sense. I'll give it a try. We'll start slow, and if we don't see any changes, then we'll build up to some sort of orbital speed.
By your lead. All right, this is definitely going to be a control con check, and I am going to have the Marvel assist with its engines and its engineering, which will be a total of 15 against.
Okay, and target difficulty?
Target difficulty is going to be only 3, but I'm going to spend 2 of my threat to raise the complication range to 18, because this is one of those moments where a misstep could be fun. Yes.
And we have 2 momentum left, correct?
Currently at 1.
Okay. So I have the talent Bold Con, which means if I get an extra die but do it by giving you a threat, I get a bonus. I've got to go pull it back up to remember exactly what that bonus is. I think I get to reroll a die or
You
something.
are able to re-roll one of your die.
Yeah. So unless the lieutenant commander has something against that, I think that's what I'm going to do.
I don't see any issue with it. And don't forget, every session you do have access to your determination if you want to pull off one of those auto crits.
Okay.
I'd feel better about giving him threat than popping your determination at the moment. We might need it for something later. This is currently an issue, but since we can just give him threat for the extra die and the reroll, we can buy the extra die with the momentum and then
Right.
give you the reroll with that. Then I
think
feel
saving the
safer doing the
determination
threat
makes
thing.
sense too. Okay.
Okay.
So you said control con, and I'm going to buy an extra die by giving you a threat.
Perfect.
I'm definitely not re-rolling those two. 1, 8, and 8. So that's 4 successes.
And anything additional from the Marvel?
You got one from Mark.
Alrighty,
So
so
5
that's 2
successes.
momentum that got built up. 5 successes overall. Perfect. You do begin to start that parallel path and start to try and make that circular orbit happen again. And you do notice that as long as you aren't pulling outwards, which is a complex flight path to try and make sure that you're getting that perfect arc where there's no outward pull from your current position, but you do see that the field does not increase as long as you're not pulling outwards, and you start essentially toe dragging the Rosenberg in an orbit. And once you get it up to enough momentum, you release, and it does stay in that steady circular orbit around this graviton field.
USS Marvel, Starfleet Drift.
I tilt my head over to Corval and say, "Nice flying, Lieutenant."
Thank you, Commander. Lieutenant Commander.
It's fine.
That's a mouthful. You need a promotion.
You can just call me Doc if it's easier.
After everything's done, I will basically turn the seat slightly away from the helm. Commander, I think we have the Rosenberg in a somewhat stable orbit. We've released the tractor beam. They are adrift, but currently safe. And we should be free and clear to navigate without impacting the Rosenberg or the Singularity at our distance.
Understood. Let's now take a look at that, whatever that thing is, and see if we can figure out what's going on here.
I will slowly meter us towards the emitter.
As you get closer, you are seeing that there's regular tachyon pulses that are being emitted just to make sure that this thing isn't moving away. And you can see it kind of sparkling on your view screen at each time the wave hits it. As you get within 10,000 kilometers, though, there is a alert from the ship that the Marvel is being scanned.
Commander, we are being scanned.
Go to yellow alert, shields up. As you do so, the thing begins to decloak, and you can see that it is very boxy, but you can see that it looks like there are rings located around split sections of this very boxy looking device, split into almost 5 sections, and each of these sectional points there are sets of phaser banks that are set onto the device. And there is again the sensors start setting up alerts. It looks like the weaponry systems are about to engage on this device.
Captain
Commander,
Commander, the weapons are going online.
Go to red alert. Be ready to take evasive actions, Helm.
evasive pattern A set.
And we will engage in a small combat. Here we go. With no security officer and no captain. This is going to be interesting.
And a doctor who wants to be in medbay and up here on the bridge at the same time.
Yeah. So we have a civilian, a doctor, the commander, and a pilot.
This is going to go very, very interesting.
Session
Punchline
1,
is
US. Session 1, Marvel destroyed in interspace.
Marvel 2.0 next session. Alrighty, so I'm going to give you guys the initiative first. Go ahead and take action.
What is before I talk about an action? What is the relative distance between us, this box ship, and the Rosenberg?
In terms of ranges, you guys are currently at medium range from the device, and the device is currently at long range away from the well and the Rosenberg.
Okay. And is it possible to tell if we are being aimed at or the Rosenberg is being aimed at, or would that be an action for the combat?
Say again, you cut out a little bit on that one.
Sorry. Would it be possible to tell, and would this be the action for combat or for a combat turn, to tell if we're being targeted or the Rosenberg?
The ship is setting alerts that their weapon systems are engaging, and since you were just scanned, it is very likely that you are about to be targeted.
Okay.
Do you want me to scan for weaknesses on the ship thing first? Just in case it comes to actual combat?
Yeah, that might be good. I think that makes sense.
And would that be a reason science? A reason science roll?
Scanning for weaknesses, that is generally a reason science. Sorry, control science, and it's assisted by the ship's security sensors, which is
Okay,
that is a total of 11.
I have 2 successes on my end.
And Marvel rolled a natural 1 finally.
Alrighty, well done. So you do begin scanning, and it does appear that its shield systems have not yet engaged because it has been pulling out of the cloaking system. So before the next round, you guys have piercing 2 against the this odd device system.
Shields are still down, Commander, if you want to take a shot.
We could spend the momentum to retain initiative to make sure we get that shield down shot.
Yes, you certainly
I can agree with that. I think we should.
Yes. Well, that should be the commander taking the shot.
Definitely should be the commander.
Alrighty, so the commander is going to take the shot if that's what you guys are requesting. So, buttons. It is always a process to make sure I have the right screen up at the right time.
Tell me about it.
Alrighty, they are going to take the shot. Wow. Okay, that's a 2 and a 1.
Oh yeah.
Good shooting.
Yeah. And if someone will roll for the ship's tactical computer, just want to make sure that I'm doing that right.
Rolled a 12.
That is also a hit, so 5 successes overall. Wow. If someone will roll for the ship's phasers, the phaser out. I cannot speak now. What the heck is happening to me? For the ship's phaser array, I believe that is 7 effect dice, if my sheet is telling me the right information here.
I can do that if you want, Corey.
Yep, sounds good. And isn't there a bonus based on the number of successes you have? Or is that something else?
Uh,
I believe
It
if
is
you have
overall-
momentum, you can spend the momentum.
Oh, okay. We don't have that much momentum.
Correct me if I'm
well,
wrong.
currently,
Dan.
based off of the roll that you had, it will.
Oh, yeah.
It has piercing 2, which means they will probably be taking at least a breach, if not being absolutely hammered with this next set of shots.
Okay, and just real quick, since I'm not using the dice that come with the game, 1s and 2s are just 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s are nothing, and 5s and 6s are effects.
1 is
Yes.
1, 2 is 2, 3, 4, nothing, 5 and 6, 1 plus effect.
Okay, so I have 3 6s and 1 1.
Okay.
So 3 effects and 1.
Okay. So that does get past all of the resistances there. And that is, if my math is right, at least 5 damage, right?
Yes, because 6s count as 2s with effects, so 2, 4, 6, 7. With the resistances taken off, it would be, yeah. So that would be 5, which would be an injury.
Okay, so that is 1 breach. Ships are reduced to 0, so another breach. And that's 2 breaches there. It's a smaller device that brings it pretty heavily down pretty quickly. As you set off that phaser shot, it's very quick, very again, you're letting off as quickly as possible after that scan to try and take advantage of the fact that its shields are down, and it hammers this device before there's just this explosion of light and particles in the air out in front of the Marvel. At which point you see that the Rosenberg, to your guys' stern, leaves its orbitus pattern and just starts drifting galactically downwards away from its current position, its last recorded position. But you can see that as it leaves that area, there is a sparking beyond just its running lights, as lights in the upper bridge and some of the ship lights are starting to come on elsewhere on the Rosenberg.
That definitely did something.
I agree. Keep your eyes open. Scanners are not showing remains of the device. For a skeleton crew, well done, Marvel.
So I get, if we're still in combat, I guess that means it is now the.
It is
Ship's
clear of
turn.
combat at the moment, as
Clear
I
of
do
combat.
not have a device that can fire back at you.
I will
We
then begin maneuvering the Marvel basically to provide cover for the Rosenberg until we get where the Rosenberg is back under its own steam.
And can we try to reestablish communications with them?
You certainly may. It takes a few minutes as the specialist Kimoni Orel takes a few moments and pulls out a panel on the bridge before removing and replacing a few isolinear chips, and then in frustration just kicks the panel, which then you see that the communications array turns itself back on. And you start hearing a chirp on the bridge. It appears that the Rosenberg is attempting to hail you. Go ahead. Open frequencies, Lieutenant.
I reach over and try to hit the hail button from tactical or from the helm, and assuming I hit the button, hailing frequencies are open.
This is the Marvel. Go ahead, Rosenberg. You can see that their bridge is in a little bit of disarray, and the somewhat well-kept the captain of the Rosenberg now looks disheveled, and his hair is all over the place. Don't know what you guys did out there, but whatever you did seemed to fix the problem. You guys holding steady over there? Do you need assistance still? That is unnecessary, Captain. We will be able to return to dry dock without issue. Good. Good. Do you think you might be able to give us a tow? Our power core is still struggling to turn itself back on. I think we can assist in that capacity, Captain. And she just nods towards you, Lieutenant.
Yep. Arranging tractor beam for towing.
It takes a short while, but you do manage to return to dry dock at Utopia Planitia and reestablish moorings with the space dock. As the ship settles in, the specialist looks around. I think she did damn well, near as good as she could have the first time. And plus, she didn't even have any engineers or, well, half the bridge crew or anyone else that works on this ship. I'm willing to say that she's approved.
On the bright side, we can actually rule out that none of this was your fault.
Yeah.
Unless, well, Corval looks a bit serious. Unless somehow the microsingularities are what triggered whatever that box was to perk up in the first place.
I mean, I suppose it could, but what would... If it... I mean, I suppose it could.
Oh, and I also have a feeling in that case we wouldn't have been helping with the warp core. It wouldn't have been delaying the issue of the gravitons if that were the case. If anything, they weren't expecting us.
Really, we need a ship to go out and do some research on that, but it needs to be a fully staffed ship.
Yeah. Well, I think we can safely dock for now and probably inform the captain of how his ship did while it was away. I'm going to go back to the engineering decks, if that's all right with you, Commander. I think that is appropriate for now. Lieutenant Commander, free for shore leave until we are ready to depart. More permanently this time.
With respect, Commander, would it be okay if I returned to the med bay and checked on their status before I went on shore leave?
Certainly, Lieutenant Commander.
Thank you, Commander. And I head back to the med bay.
Med bay, for the most part, is intact. It appears that some hypospray containers shattered on the floor. Luckily, nothing that can't be re-replicated and cleaned up, but it seems that the jostling around was not exactly friendly to Med Bay.
Ensign, Lieutenant, are you guys okay?
Lieutenant Kim just nods. Is it gonna be like this the whole journey, or you think that was just rough day one?
Honestly, Lieutenant, I'm not sure.
Oh no! To quote Captain Picard, I expect the most of our adventures to be far more exciting.
Oh, lovely! This is going to be great. The Ensign.
On the upside, all that training will come into use.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be busy if this ship keeps breaking down and hurting people. I think everything's going to be fine, Lieutenant Commander. The ensign and I will organize some of the orderlies to help clean up this mess, and I'll get to work on replicating the stock again.
I'll stay and assist for a while before going on shore leave.
Perfect. And while this is going to end probably a shorter episode, I don't want to get too far without our captain and security officer, wherever they may be detained. But for all of you watching and all of you engaging with us through the 10th Expeditionary Fleet, this is the USS Marvel signing off. Hailing frequencies closed.